That's a primary chunk of why a lot of people are very like anti-Bitcoin, is because they bought it at some point, they sold it, and they were wrong. They thought it would keep going down, but it actually did the opposite. It kept going up. And they feel so badly about themselves and their decision that they want other people to make that same mistake so that they don't benefit from it. And that's, a lot of people don't talk about that. And those people will never admit that. Believe me, they're like in denial about it. But that is a real reason why some people just really want Bitcoin to fail, because they messed up. With only hours until Michael Chadsworth Saylor unleashes another massive Bitcoin purchase, some are speculating that after participating in many closed-door meetings with the incoming US administration, he is buying as much as he physically can right now because he knows the price is about to go bananas, balls to the wall, bust out, breakout, absolute gigapumpy mode. But is it actually possible that we're about to see something bigger and more juicy than we could have ever dreamed? What if I told you the answer was yes? So if you understand that before things can get huge, they have to start out as big, hit that like and subscribe. And without any further ado, let's completely and absolutely dump into today, where we see, just as we've been seeing for the past 9 weeks in a row, every time Michael Saylor posts the Bitcoin tracker, MicroStrategy buys Bitcoin, more Bitcoin the next day. So we're very likely to expect, it's very likely that we should be expecting Michael Saylor and GigaStrategy to be gobbling up some more Bitcoin tomorrow. As we discussed in yesterday's video, Michael Saylor has been increasing his cost basis and buying more Bitcoin than he's ever bought before now at all-time highs, seemingly because it's almost like somebody is threatening Michael Saylor to say, hey man, you got to buy as much Bitcoin as you can. Otherwise, we're going to give you a reach around surprise or something. Like, this guy is buying Bitcoin like his life depends on it. And the only things that we've seen happen over the last few weeks is that this man has been meeting with the incoming administration just as recently as like 2 days ago when he posted the photo with Eric Trump, as people within the incoming administration have been basically saying, giving us hints that if you're excited at Bitcoin at 100,000, you're about to be a lot more exciting, hinting at, again, the price going much higher with a Bitcoin reserve, just the possibility in just a few weeks. Again, I think that the reason that Bitcoin is being gobbled up by MicroStrategy at a higher amount and at a higher cost basis than ever before, meaning he's basically increasing his risk even though he's borrowing at 0%. So really, there's not, if you really know what's happening, there's not like a ton of risk there, surprisingly. It's kind of insane, actually. This guy is gobbling up more Bitcoin than ever, and you have to think, is it because $100,000 per Bitcoin is about to seem cheap? I want to continue actually looking at a few other things. The FDIC sent out 25 letters telling banks to stop developing Bitcoin banking products. Here's some examples here, but this was back in 2022 and 2023. I want you guys to understand that the previous bear market was pretty bad. In fact, as we see specifically from this, the FDIC was trying to prevent people and banks from offering Bitcoin services, and they were trying to strangle the industry. Not only did we not have pro-crypto regulation and pro-crypto representation, pro-crypto laws, in fact, behind the scenes, the more we find out, the more it turns out they were trying to kill crypto behind the scenes, right? They were trying to make sure Bitcoin never had another bull market, basically, right? They were doing everything they could to try to stop it. And here we are at the beginning of 2025, as we're just weeks away from the most pro-crypto administration in the history of the world. And those things are in the past, right? Things like FTX, things like Luna, things like quite literally the FDIC trying to strangle this industry. Not only are they the past, we're about to enter a new era where it's the exact opposite. Instead of things trying to destroy the industry, we are going to have more people in power than ever trying to grow the industry and trying to get out in front of it and become leaders in the industry, which is exactly what should have happened from the beginning. However, as I like to say, it's always dumpiest before the pumpiest, meaning sometimes before you really get to those really important, really groundbreaking, transformative moments, you need to go through heck. You need to experience pain. You need to get dumped on. Not only in price, I mean, price was a big part of it, but sometimes with policy, right? It started off for the past 15, 16 years, most countries, most administrations around the world have been anti-crypto. Now, just over the last 1 to 2 years, we've seen places like El Salvador or Argentina slowly start to become for the first time ever, not anti-crypto and start to be pro-crypto. And now we're about to have the most influential country on the planet, financially, the US, come out as being pro-crypto for the first time ever. And you're bearish? Okay, are you kidding me? Go to the doctor, get some brain scans, and make sure all the neurons, make sure everything's okay. Because out of every time in history of the last 16 years, this is the time to be not only not bearish on crypto, this is the most bullish fundamental environment possible that we've ever seen for this market. So, you know, it's important to not get overly bullish, but also when things are staring you in the face, potentially slapping you in the face, and you're refusing to wake up and acknowledge reality, then that's your fault and you're going to get left behind. And I know for a fact many people over the last few months were waiting for Bitcoin to crash to 30K before getting in. Here we are. I mean, do you think we're going to get 30K before this bull market goes into giga mode? I mean, I don't think so. I think we're going to be trending higher over the next few months. And I think if you're waiting for 30K for an entry, well, first of all, if it would get to 30K, you'd say, oh, well, I'll wait till 10K, meaning you'll never buy anyway because you're a bad investor. But at the same time, good luck getting to 30K. I mean, again, a lot of things would have to, basically, for Bitcoin to go to 30K, Megatron from the Transformers movies would have to come to Earth and start wreaking havoc for there to be a chance for Bitcoin to go to 30K, right? We'd have to start getting people like Megatron to become reality and start attacking. It's just very unlikely. But we see here as well, according to James Van Straten, the market has now absorbed over 1 million Bitcoin. I think the Bitcoin long-term holder supply has bottomed out. According to James, supply has now grown over the past week and should rise from here. And he compares also the yen carry trade, which is something earlier in the year or last year that we witnessed. We also saw Will Clemente making a good point. One of the most horrible takes that bears have been parroting for a decade is, what is the point of investing in Bitcoin if you never plan on selling it? What they don't realize is actually they're making a really strong bullish point. Rich people borrow against their good assets, and Bitcoin doesn't have any material institutional credit facilities for these billionaires, these ultra wealthy, to borrow against Bitcoin right now. However, it's coming, and once it's in place, it will actually make Bitcoin even more desirable to own as an asset. So again, if you look at the writing on the wall now, but then you also think back, or you think of all these possibilities that are likely coming, it only makes more and more sense to keep buying. And actually, one of the things I want to highlight here is this, and this is a gigantically long thread by Dylan DeClaire about an analysis on MicroStrategy's preferred stock target raise, and it's very long. But this post just says, I'll just buy it. I don't understand this, which, yeah, I'll just buy Bitcoin. I don't understand this. Really, I mean, we can actually look at this real briefly. I mean, look at this. I don't understand it either. And if you understand it, I mean, that's great. And I mean, do you? The point is, you don't need to necessarily understand some of this. What is the conclusion of this whole thing here? Let's see if it actually does have a TLDR. In essence, Bitcoin has infiltrated the fixed income market, and the dreaded uncertainty, aka the volatility, that every smug TradFi allocator spent the last 15 years making fun of is the very reason MicroStrategy preferreds will likely be the top performing preferred security in the blah, blah, blah. Anyway, see, do you know what I mean? Even the TLDR is kind of wordy. But the point is, just buy Bitcoin. And you can basically benefit from exactly what's happening now as well. You don't have to know everything. Actually, even the top comment said, he says, I'll just buy Bitcoin. And the top comment says the author probably doesn't understand what he posted either. But the point is, guys, really, some of this stuff, you truly don't have to 100% understand how Bitcoin has truly infiltrated TradFi now, and specifically what MicroStrategy is doing. Because I understand what MicroStrategy is doing, but that whole post is a little more extremely nuanced and detailed. The point is, sometimes just buying Bitcoin, the simplest thing, is actually the smartest thing. We also see this. If you need to understand Bitcoin, this is the easiest way to look at it. This is for the past 62 years. The US monetary supply. It has completely ballooned. This is called inflation. This is called devaluing your asset, devaluing your currency. This is Bitcoin for the next 100 years. Okay, most of this Bitcoin has already been mined, a little less than 20 million. For the next 100 years, less than 1 million, because there's about 1 million left to be mined over the next 100 years. This is what's called deflationary. This is what's called a limited supply. And this is exactly why, just like I personally believe, you know how people misunderstood the internet in the 90s and they thought it would just be a passing fad and the internet was just some, just some, whether tulip mania or whatever, they compared it to a lot of things back then as useless and that it would go away. Like Paul Krugman, for example, said that it was to be a passing fad. His famous quote, "By 2005 or so, it will become clear that the internet's impact on the economy has been no greater than the fax machines." Meaning this guy was completely wrong about the internet. And it's not the first time people have been completely wrong about emerging technology. I think the same thing. I think people they're comparing Bitcoin to all these things that they understand because they're trying to put it into a box. But what's actually happening is they have no idea what's actually happening. It is a revolution, just like the internet was a revolution. And really, by the time most people understand that, by the time most people get it, they're not going to be able to afford a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent. I mean, maybe if they try really hard, maybe they can own 0.01 or 0.001 of a Bitcoin because you can buy fractions of it. But really, the sooner you understand this, the better your life will be. We also see that BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF now is worth double BlackRock's gold ETF. BlackRock's gold ETF was launched 20 years ago. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF was launched not even a year ago. And it's already double gold's ETF that was launched 20 years ago. Do you understand that? In 1 year, this Bitcoin ETF is worth double the gold ETF that's been around for 20 years. Literally every metric has been blown away in just the last year since these Bitcoin spot ETFs were approved, which, keep in mind, 1 year ago, I was being flooded with comments from people telling me there would be no way a Bitcoin spot ETF would ever be approved. Now we have over a dozen of them. If you want to be bearish, it's very easy to trick yourself into anything, right? But at this point, if you're bearish, it's only because you're lying to yourself and you're just making up these dumb arguments that I've seen people do for the past 8 years, okay? Quite literally, I've seen probably millions of comments in the past 8 years. And a lot of them are people that are, doubtful of Bitcoin. And the one thing that's held true this entire time is that those people have always been wrong. Always. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. We also see that Bitcoin's bullish momentum aiming for 100,000 according to Titan of Crypto on X. The daily MACD just crossed bullish as well, which is something we've been following for the last few days. This is big, and we're going to jump into this in a few seconds as well. And according to Crypto Jail, everything is going according to plan with Bitcoin breaking out here. Yeah, I think 2025 is going to be big. I think it's going to be quite large, actually. We also see that Rajat on X quoting, I sold my Bitcoin and I regret it. A lot of people will be saying this over the next decade. He said, I thought 100K was the top. Is it too late to buy back in at 1.3 million? So this is just a quote of somebody yesterday saying that they bought Bitcoin and then they sold it at 47,000 because he needed the money. But now it's at basically 100,000 and he regrets it. Really, you can go back in history, man. This is like, it happens all the time. If you don't have a long-term outlook on Bitcoin and you think it's just something that you can time within a 1 to 2 year period and you can sell the exact top and buy the exact bottom, chances are you can't. And quite literally, sometimes the easiest thing to do is the best thing to do is the easiest and simplest thing to do. And what is that? This might blow your mind, what I'm about to tell you. You just buy it, you keep buying it, and you wait. And that's it. You don't have to make it more complicated than that. But we also see that altcoins right here, according to Rect Capital, the altcoin market has found a bottom in the green circled area. This area has acted in the past as big resistance, these red circles. However, it looks as though that's actually resistance flipping to support. Classical case of resistance flipping to support. And if we look just briefly at the price is really just sitting right around a little under 100,000 like it has been the last couple of weeks. On the daily chart, however, you see we actually do now have a bullish momentum cross on the MACD, and the RSI had a bullish cross about a couple days ago, as we pointed out as well. And potentially we might be negating a 21 cross below the 50-day, which is a bearish cross. Either way, I don't think ultimately I think that the price of Bitcoin has gotten dumped on, obviously, since December 17th. It's gone from about 108,000 and it's been going down. But ultimately, I think that, Saylor's likely to be buying tomorrow. And as we head in just a few more weeks until a very pro-crypto, this is another thing. Some people are saying that they think that which makes no sense to me, just like let me get into it. People are saying that the Bitcoin strategic reserve is already priced in. which doesn't make any sense, because all that means is that if it's approved, that means the US has to start buying Bitcoin to satisfy those requirements. And then also other countries are likely to follow suit, meaning a lot more Bitcoin would have to be bought. So no, it's not priced in. But that's also the exact same argument exactly a year ago, back in January of 2024, that people were saying about the Bitcoin spot ETF. People were saying, oh, there'd never be a Bitcoin spot ETF. But deep down, I think they knew they were wrong, but they would always, guarantee their correctness by saying, well, even if it does get approved, it's already priced in, so it's not going to help the price anyway. My God, man, these people are so clueless. But anyway, the point was, not only were they wrong, they were giga wrong. It was not priced in. The price went up a lot. Again, as I just showed you, it's the most successful ETF in the history of ETFs. And it's such common sense. If it's a spot ETF that's successful and it needs to buy the underlying asset, it needs to buy Bitcoin, then of course it's going up, and of course it's not priced in. That's the most brain dead take, man. It's crazy how many people are invested in this space and are so bearish somehow. Or actually, I'll be honest, I think most of the people that try to spread fear are people that are not invested or were previously invested and sold, and now they're just in deep regret, and they do things exactly like what I just highlighted with this post. People that regret things like this. A lot of people can't handle the fact that they made a mistake, and they will literally make it their lifelong mission to try to scare other people out of their positions and make them make the same mistake. Because believe it or not, man, not everybody on this planet is like a happy person. And some people are miserable, and they want you to be miserable as well. And that is the primary reason so many people that's a primary chunk of why a lot of people are very like anti-Bitcoin, is because they bought it at some point, they sold it, and they were wrong. They thought it would keep going down, but it actually did the opposite. It kept going up. And they feel so badly about themselves and their decision that they want other people to make that same mistake so that they don't benefit from it. And that's, a lot of people don't talk about that. And those people will never admit that. Believe me, they're like in denial about it. But that is a real reason why some people just really want Bitcoin to fail, because they messed up and they want you to mess up too. It's really sad, but that's just how human psychology works. Really, for some people. For people that are unhappy, not for everyone. For people that are successful and happy, that's not how they think. But miserable people, which happens to unfortunately be a large portion of people, that's how they think. And get signed up with Femex or BITUNIX below if you want to buy Bitcoin, altcoins, or trade. Without any further ado,